What's up guys, and welcome to another episode of Tech Stuff. Now today we're going to look at the Tamron 17 to 28mm f2.8 lens that Tamron has just released a couple of weeks ago. Now this has been a highly anticipated lens by Tamron that everyone's been waiting for after the success of the 28 to 75 that was sold out for a couple of months after it was released, and only a few managed to get their hands on it. So before I dive into this, I know everybody has released all their reviews on this lens already, but I really wanted to test out this lens and used it long enough to give you guys a comprehensive review on this lens. So I just returned from a month-long trip around Europe, and I especially used this lens in the city of Dresden, Germany, which we were invited by their tourism board to make a couple of videos for their YouTube channel. I was traveling with a Singapore travel YouTuber. He had his 16 to 35 G Master from Sony, which was a bit pricey for my taste, so I wanted to look for a cheaper alternative. And just at the right time, Tamron released their 17 to 28mm at a fraction of the cost of the 16 to 35 Sony G Master lens. So I was very excited to use this lens, and I took this opportunity to really use this lens and test it out for you guys. So without further ado, let's get into this review. So let's just quickly dive into some of the key features of this lens. Now obviously it is a 17 to 28mm focal length. It has a constant aperture of f2.8. It weighs really light at 420 grams. Now it has a bit of a plastic feel to it, but I can say that the build quality really feels like it's there. Actually, the combined weight of this and the popular 28 to 75, which I'm filming on, is less than 1 kilogram, which is insane for these two lenses that I only brought with me to Europe. Now, the best thing about this lens that was really a key feature for me was that the filter sizes for this and the 28 to 75 are the same, which means you just need one filter that fits on both lenses. How insane is that? You know, when you're out there and you have your filters and you want to change lenses and you have to screw on and off and you have all your adapters, this solves all that problem. Tamron was really smart with this, and they made both filter sizes the same, which means any other accessories, if you have larger filters, you know, the ones with the card slots, you can fit it on both of these lenses easily. Alright, so let's quickly talk about the cost of this lens. So it came in at about 1,500 Singapore dollars, which is, I don't know how much US dollars, I'll convert it and put it here. But we ask ourselves how Tamron can make such an affordable wide-angle zoom lens that is comparable with the 16 to 35 Sony lens. So how is it that they are able to compete with that and keep it at such a low price? Now, a couple of obvious things. Firstly, the range of the zoom does not go up to 35mm, and of course it starts at 17 instead of the 16mm. Now, all these might seem like very minute things, but think about it this way: the less glass inside, the less weight, the less motors it takes to zoom that focal length out, and ultimately lowers the cost of the entire lens, making it more affordable to everyone. And in the end, that's all we want. We want an affordable lens that we can all afford and start taking pictures with. Now, secondly, the 28mm doesn't really bother me that much because I have the 28 to 75, like I said earlier, and it pairs really well. So it kind of picks off where this guy stops off, if that makes sense, and it just completes the whole package. So now I have a 17 to 28 and a 28 to 75. And there is a bit of a rumor that Tamron might be working on a 75 to 200 or some telephoto lens like that. I don't know if they'll keep to the same filter size, but we'll see about that. Now, some of the very key advantages of this lens. Now, firstly, it has a really small minimum focal distance, which means at its widest at 70mm, you can really get up close to your subject and capture things up to 0.19 meters away, which is really close and can get you some really interesting shots. Now, like I said, this is a very small and compact lens. The height comes in at about 99mm, and the widest diameter is about 73. And of course, the weight is 420 grams, which is really light for a wide-angle zoom. Now, another key feature about this lens is that when you're zooming in and out, nothing on the exterior actually moves, which is a great function because you don't want to have too many moving parts on your lens. So take, for example, the 16 to 35 Sony. It has sort of an extrusion or an extension of its lens when it zooms in and out. So there's a high possibility for something to get into those grooves, sand, dirt and dust and all that. So that's something really interesting about this lens. It does still extrude from the inside, but if you have a filter on, it does keep all that other dirt and stuff out, so that's fine. Alright, so finally, the most important feature that all Sony users are looking for when they buy a lens: is it compatible with the Sony's autofocus system? And of course, Tamron has done it again. It is compatible with all of Sony's autofocus features, including face detect, eye detect, and all that other nonsense. So as you can see from this clip, at its widest focal range, the Tamron actually beats the Sony in terms of how fast it can focus on a subject. However, when both lenses were zoomed in to 28mm, the Sony seems to pick up the focus a lot quicker. Now, in terms of tracking a subject coming towards you at its widest focal length, I can't really tell the difference between the two lenses, which one got it first. Same thing when it was at 28mm, I couldn't tell which lens picked up the focus first. So even though those clips showed you decisively which lenses picked up the focus first, I can tell you honestly, it was a matter of 1 or 2 frames. I really couldn't tell the difference just by looking at it. So generally, it does not matter which one actually got the focus first. Both were really close and it should not matter. It does matter actually. Tamron is a third-party lens and they managed to do whatever Sony is doing for a fraction of the cost. It's insane. So looking at photos, I can't really tell the difference between the two lenses. Both of them are extremely sharp and not much difference in terms of the amount of details in each of these photos. In terms of bokeh or bokeh, I would say the Tamron is a bit rougher than the Sony. Looking at the background right now, the Tamron has a bit of a rougher bokeh, whereas the Sony comes out a lot smoother and the circles kind of blend in a lot more together. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of this lens. Obviously, there's some things that are not so great about it. Firstly, the focus and zoom rings are different from the Sony lenses. The focus ring is on the back, where the zoom ring is on the front. Now this might throw some people off if you're used to using Sony lenses, but to me it really didn't matter that much. It's just a matter of getting used to knowing your lens. Okay, so another thing, I know I said I wasn't very bothered by this, but when I first picked up the lens at the store and zoomed it in from 17 to 28, I was a bit disappointed actually. The change in the focal range didn't really make much of a difference. I couldn't really, it felt like there wasn't enough zoom. And then again, I thought about the price tag and I was like, yeah, you know, you get what you pay for. Alright, so the last thing is that this lens does come with a bit of vignetting around the sides. Now I know some Sony cameras have their in-body vignetting correction on, but it works best on Sony native lenses compared to the Tamrons. So finally, I'm going to wrap this whole thing up by telling you guys a bit of my personal opinions on this lens. So firstly, because I've exclusively used this for travel videos and photos, I think it's a great option for travelers. These lenses by Tamron are lightweight, small, compact, and very discreet so you don't attract too much attention. So it is really ideal for travelers, especially if you're going into dangerous or remote places or you just want to travel light. So another thing is that it is a great alternative to the 16 to 35 Sony lens. Now obviously through this whole video I've been comparing these two because that's the closest thing and it really is a great alternative. It comes in at a fraction of the price of the Sony lens, so it's great for intermediate shooters or those who are more budget conscious with your spending. And last but not least, the filter sizes. Both lenses that I bought from Tamron have the same filter sizes and that just blows my mind that Tamron has thought about that. I didn't even know about it before buying the lens. I only found that out when I opened up the box and looked at the filter size and I was really surprised and really happy about that. So that's it for this video. I hope it's been helpful to you guys in understanding more about this lens. Honestly, this video was not paid or sponsored by Tamron or any other camera store. I bought this lens for myself because I really trust in Tamron's build quality and the ability to adapt to Sony's autofocus system. So honestly, this is a great lens for me, a great lens for anyone looking for an affordable wide-angle zoom lens. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment if you have any other questions. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But if not, I will see you guys in the next video.
And go.